The fallout from a gruesome murder on public transportation in Charlotte, North Carolina, continues as President Donald Trump's administration and Republicans on Capitol Hill consider what more can be done to keep our cities safe. And an Israeli strike on a Hamas political office in Doha, Qatar, could carry ramifications for efforts to end the war in the Middle East. And finally, the Trump administration is eyeing executive actions that could challenge previous court rulings on prayer in our public schools. I'm Daily Signal Politics editor Bradley Devlin, in for Tony Kinnett. The date is September 10th, 2025, and this is your top news in 10. The nation was sent reeling in horror when video was released over the weekend of the August 22nd murder of Irina Zarutska on a train in Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, the Trump administration and Republicans are taking action in response. In the released video, the accused murderer, DeCarlos Brown Jr., is seen stabbing the 23-year-old Ukrainian refugee. Brown was arrested at least 14 times before in North Carolina, according to news reports. The alleged crimes included assault, illegal firearms possession, felony robbery, and larceny. And the charges date all the way back to 2007. Even Brown's own mother has said that her son was a schizophrenic and should not have been out on the streets. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt addressed the heinous crime at Tuesday's briefing.
Difficult time. But while we extend our thoughts and prayers, we must also seek justice for this crime and call attention to this heinous incident. Surveillance video of the killing was finally released to the public this past Friday. It shows the alleged killer, DeCarlos Brown Jr., pull out a knife, get up from his seat behind Irina, and prepare to thrust a blade into her neck before the released footage gets cut. This is pure evil on full display. The most enraging and unacceptable part of this story is that her death was entirely preventable. DeCarlos Brown never should have been on that train that night. In fact, he should have been behind bars. DeCarlos Brown has been charged with crimes no fewer than 14 times, dating back to 2011, including for armed robbery, felony larceny, breaking and entering, and shoplifting. Brown had previously served 5 years in prison for a robbery with a deadly weapon charge, and he had also forfeited bonds 3 different times, twice in 2014 and once in 2023. Despite all of this past documented criminal history, when Brown was arrested yet again in January of this past year, a Democrat judge, who I will add was a strong supporter of former Vice President Kamala Harris, released this insane criminal once again without requiring him to pay any bail. He simply had to sign a written promise to return for his court hearing. Think about how crazy it is to ask a career criminal, someone who by definition repeatedly breaks the law, to just sign a written promise and come back again another day. This is madness. This monster should have been locked up, and Irina should still be alive. But Democrat politicians, liberal judges, and weak prosecutors would rather virtue signal than lock up criminals and protect their communities.
The Trump administration is ripping the left and the media's response to the murder because prior to the release of the video, Democrat mayor of Charlotte, Vi Lyles, issued a statement that read in part, quote, "We will never arrest our way out of issues such as homelessness and mental health," end quote. On Monday, the president went after soft-on-crime policies like cashless bail.
Oh, they have a great cashless bail. You don't even have to go to court sometimes.
As Leavitt pointed out in her Tuesday briefing, President Trump previously signed an executive order directing the Attorney General to find jurisdictions with cashless bail and then threatened to pull federal funding if they do not reverse course. And on Tuesday, the DOJ and FBI announced that they would be charging Brown with a federal crime, one count of committing an act causing death on a mass transportation system. FBI Director Kash Patel called the attack disgraceful, and Attorney General Pam Bondi said that the Department of Justice will seek the maximum penalty for Brown. And on Capitol Hill, Congressman Tim Moore of North Carolina is co-sponsoring a bill with Congresswoman Elise Stefanik to end cashless bail on a national basis. The bill, called the Keep Violent Criminals Off Our Streets Act, is sponsored by Senator Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee in the Senate. The Israeli government perpetrated a strike on a Hamas political office in Doha, Qatar on Tuesday. An Israeli official who spoke to the New York Times on the condition of anonymity told the Times that Hamas leaders were gathering at Doha to discuss President Donald Trump's peace plan, which would lead to the release of hostages. According to Hamas, the Israeli strike in Doha killed 5. And pundits speculated whether or not this action by the Israeli government was unilateral or in coordination with the United States. Israel later announced that Tuesday's strike was a, quote, wholly independent Israeli operation, end quote. The office of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said in a statement, quote, Israel initiated it, Israel conducted, and Israel takes full responsibility, end quote. Israeli officials have also claimed the strike on Qatar was months in the making. However, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said at a Tuesday briefing that Trump directed his special envoy Steve Witkoff to, quote, inform the Qataris of the impending attack, end quote. Leavitt further addressed the attack in the briefing room.
This morning, the Trump administration was notified by the United States military that as Israel was attacking Hamas, which very unfortunately was located in a section of Doha, the capital of Qatar. Unilaterally bombing inside Qatar, a sovereign nation and close ally of the United States that is working very hard and bravely taking risks with us to broker peace, does not advance Israel or America's goals. However, eliminating Hamas, who have profited off the misery of those living in Gaza, is a worthy goal.
Leavitt added that Trump had spoken to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu following the attack, along with the Emir and Prime Minister of Qatar. Leavitt said that the president assured the Qataris that such a thing will not happen again on their soil. Predictably, Qatar's foreign ministry condemned the Israeli attack, and its interior ministry announced that one Qatari police officer was killed and others were wounded. A spokesperson for the foreign ministry also denied that the Trump administration gave Qatar advance warning. Quote, the statements being circulated about Qatar being informed of the attack in advance are baseless. The communication received from one of the American officials came during the sound of explosions resulting from the Israeli attack in Doha, the spokesperson said. One Qatari diplomat believes this attack was to sabotage further peace negotiations. Deputy Chief of Mission at the Qatari Embassy in Washington, D.C., Hamad al-Mufta, claimed it was clearly designed to undermine the peace negotiations in which the United States and Qatar are collaborating closely. Qatar, in particular its capital city of Doha, has repeatedly been a venue for negotiations to settle the war that broke out on October 7, 2023. The Hamas political office in Doha was established in 2012 with the coordination of the Obama administration, and today, Qatar is a major non-NATO ally and hosts America's largest military base in the Middle East, though the Gulf state has been criticized for its relationship with Iran, its potential sponsorship of terrorism, and its expenditures to influence politics in the United States. The Daily Signal's White House correspondent, Elizabeth Mitchell, reported earlier this week on the Trump administration's announcement that the Department of Education, led by Education Secretary Linda McMahon, will be issuing new guidance protecting the right to prayer in public schools. In the White House briefing room on Tuesday, Mitchell followed up with the White House press secretary on the administration's efforts.
Elizabeth, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. I have two questions.
Sure.
First, on prayer again. Is the Trump administration looking for the forthcoming prayer guidelines to challenge existing court precedent on the right to pray in public schools?
Well, the president spoke about that yesterday, and some of the changes we are making to ensure that the religious liberties of America's students and our youth are respected in public schools. In fact, he had a young student and invited him on stage to share his story about how when this young boy spoke about biological and biblical truth in his classroom, he faced consequences for that, and how Americans of faith should not be facing consequences for expressing their religious freedom and their religious views. Not in any public school in America should that be happening. You heard the president talk about that.
The young boy mentioned in Leavitt's response is named Shane. President Trump brought Shane on stage during his speech to the Religious Liberty Commission at the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C. on Monday, because Shane was required to read a book about transgender ideology at school. And when his parents complained about this book, Shane was bullied. Shane told the crowd, quote, "I believe kids like me should be able to live our faith at school without being forced to go against what we believe," end quote. Trump set up the Religious Liberty Commission to address religious liberty issues in the United States and around the world, with particular attention to the Christian discrimination and persecution happening around the world, as Christians are the #1 target of this persecution globally. Trump told the crowd gathered on Monday, quote, "To have a great nation, you have to have religion," end quote. Food for thought from President Donald Trump, but that is all the time that we have for today's episode of Top News in 10. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'm Bradley Devlin, politics editor of the Daily Signal.
Before you go, head down to the description and make sure you're subscribed to the Tony Kinnett Cast. And we'll see you tonight at 7 p.m. for a roundup of the day's news and nonsense and a couple of updates on these developing stories. It's going to be a busy week, and you're going to want to spend it with us. I'm Tony Kinnett, and this has been the Daily Signal's Top News in 10. Take care.